was, so tired of hearing that black crime is caused by black culture. For some reason, rap music doesn't make white people steal cars and shoot people. It only works on black people.
Oh my God.
Take a couple deep breaths. Damn. Damn. All right. Damn, this is really overwhelming. Like, I really feel like this is draining. All right. I kind of already explained the situation with Jason Whitlock and Nick Fuentes. I'm just going to get into the video, let it play a bit. And, you know, you guys obviously can give me your thoughts as we go. And I know a lot of these type of situations, it becomes a little hard to where you don't necessarily want to comment on it. Don't feel any pressure from me to comment anything, especially if this is the first time that you're seeing a lot of this stuff. Like, yeah, that could, oh, yeah, we need the chat flooded. We need this interaction. Nah, I don't think that it's always necessary or the best thing to just comment the first time that you're seeing something. Because typically, I know for me, my initial thoughts are not necessarily how I feel when I have some time to process stuff. So I always have to keep that in mind if I am watching something, to be like, all right, I understand how you, that first reaction where you feel it here, but I also got to incorporate up here. So let's hear what Jason Whitlock got to say.
Then I'm going to share with you the tweet in my response that clearly upset him. So Nick Fuentes tweeted out 2 days ago or whenever it was, so tired of hearing that black crime is caused by black culture. For some reason.
But what you can do is like and subscribe.
Or whenever it was, so tired of hearing that black crime is caused by black culture. For some reason, rap music doesn't make white people steal cars and shoot people. It only works on black people. He had a follow-up tweet to that.
Very quickly, I'm going to interrupt it. I don't know if Jason Whitlock's going to discuss this, but I just wanted to draw the connection of what Charleston White was saying based on what Nick Fuentes' tweet is. So tired of hearing that black crime is caused by black culture. For some reason, rap music doesn't make white people steal cars and shoot people. It only works on black people. Well, it's the imagery. A lot of people will say this is why imagery is so important when it comes to religion and you seeing a savior that looks like you. Imagery is just important. So push the religion to the side. Just in our day-to-day life, when you see certain people, why does every black kid in America want to play basketball and football? Are they just born with a basketball and football gene? No, it's because that's who they see playing their sport. Why do white kids tend to play this sport? Why do Asian kids, why do they tend to be more successful in education? Typically, that imagery plays a big role. So with a white kid hearing, now, depending on where you grew up, you know, but traditionally, let's say if a white kid growing up in a white neighborhood is listening to rap music, who actually, you go to a lot of these rap concerts, it always stuck with me when I used to hear about like the NWA concerts, and it'd be the majority of white people. The reason why it may not impact white people as much, aside from what Nick Fuentes is trying to make it seem like black people are just inherently more violent. We'll get into a little bit more on that. But the problem is when a black kid hears that music and they go outside or even in the house and they see that type of culture being represented in the house, and then they step outside and they see that type of culture and they're embraced by that culture all day long, it's obviously going to impact them in a different way. And when they see the people that are looking like, yo, that person on that show standing on that corner or holding that gun in that music video, that looks like my friends and I, that looks like Uncle. You get what I'm saying? So let's, sorry to interrupt the video. We got a new challenge. 20,000 by the end of April. We fell short in March, but we're going to get our goal this month. Thank you all in advance for those that are going to continue to like, subscribe, maybe even leave some comments and let us know how we're doing. And on that note, let me let y'all get back to the video, and I'll see y'all soon. Let's keep going.
People. He had a...
Not to make an excuse. I'm not making an excuse. What I'm doing is pointing out a problem and pointing out how it impacts people. So imagery is important to the point that we need to take more seriously the imagery that we're providing a lot of our kids with and the environment that we are grooming for them.
Follow-up tweet to that, that further, you know what, let's take the time to, let's grab the follow-up tweet as well, because I want to make sure I provide, we got time, I want to make sure I provide the entire proper context of this. Let me see if I can dig it up here before you guys. I want to go to my Twitter feed here and get his.
I'll fast forward just so you guys don't have to.
This was part of another. Yep, I think I can read it. Just another in a long list of excuses. Leftists blame it on racism and poverty. Conservatives blame it on culture and godlessness. Blacks create the same culture from LA to Baltimore, from Haiti to London, from Sudan to South Africa, from prehistory to now, it's race. So that's the two tweets he put out that upset me. And so
before Jason responds, just another in a long list of excuses. Leftists blame it on racism and poverty. Conservatives blame it on culture and godlessness. Blacks create the same culture from LA to Baltimore, from Haiti to London, from Sudan to South Africa, from prehistory to now, it's race. That's wild. From prehistory to now, that's just wild. I just got to be honest, call a spade a spade. I don't see, like, when you think about colonialism, when you think about Christopher Columbus, it's like, oh, I guess that's a little bit different. That doesn't count as far as culture, because that's just us discovering a land. Like, to me, my actual, I'll be totally honest with y'all. I think Black people over history have shown, if there's a scale of walking away and being cowardly or being violent, that spectrum, I'd say that our problem is we're too cowardly in certain situations. Now, when you talk about violence, it's violence against each other. Yeah, that's definitely there. That's been the culture that's been created in America. That's is what it is. When you talk about violence, let's say this African tribe going against this other African tribe. Well, yeah, that's because there's all African tribe, like more darker skinned people in those areas. So of course they're going to go against each other, just no different than if European nations were fighting against each other. Or if you had, I don't know, when you look at King Arthur, I just was looking at King Arthur, you had the Saxons coming down fighting against the Romans or fighting against. It just is how it goes. But when you talk about these type of violent actions occurring to other people and going to other nations and conquering them, colonialism, you're bugging. That just hasn't been the case. Facts are facts. It just has not been the case. And one thing that I do want to point out is that if we're not careful, and maybe this is the conversation that, you know, kind of connects to what Nick Fuentes was saying in the earlier point when he was talking about he doesn't want to live around Black people. And I was even having some conversations with some people in my family, and even Maya was saying it on the show, and then we talked a little bit about it afterwards, where it's like, well, it's not that you don't want to live around Black people, it's just that you don't want to live. She was more so saying classism. I don't necessarily want to go into that conversation again, but what I do want to say is that when you do something over and over, generation upon generation, and this is different than the conversation, even though it does connect, this is different than him saying that he doesn't want to live around Black people. That is more so based on what it is in the reality right now. Now, not at all saying that Black people are just born to be more violent. No, but based on current circumstances, it just is what it is. The predominantly Black neighborhoods You could say it's because of classism. You could say it's because of poverty. You could say all these things. And I'll agree with you on some of them. But it still is what it is. You could say that an alligator is just violent because, or a shark is just violent based on this situation. I still don't want to get in the water with them. It is what it is. But when it comes to certain things, what we have to be very careful of, in my opinion, is that it's almost like, maybe a good example like sharks. You ever hear like, oh, pit bulls are not violent. They're just raised a certain way. Well, eventually when they continue to be raised a certain way, if I'm walking down the street and I hear and I see a stray pit bull running at me, I may feel a little bit differently than if a golden retriever's running at me. Or if a German shepherd's running at me, I may feel a little bit of a different way than a golden retriever's running at me. It's just different. It just is what it is. And then I want to bring it to a different point. What Nick Fuentes is saying, the reason why he feels comfortable saying it, in my opinion, is the same connection that we make when it comes to diabetes, obesity. Even we just showed a video on dementia and Alzheimer's. People were saying that, I've heard my entire life that diabetes is hereditary. It skips a generation, but well, I wonder why it skips a generation, if it does. Yeah, oh, mom and pops died from diabetes. Yeah, let me make sure that I'm not eating how they're eating. Maybe that's why it skips a generation. I don't know. But either way, I don't know the science of all of it. But I don't think that that's hereditary. I don't think that obesity is hereditary, even though people will say that there's an obesity gene. I think it's just based on you doing what your parents do. Your parents eat like crap. Majority of situations, you're going to eat like crap because they're feeding you crap as they're eating crap. They're not feeding you whole foods and then going and eating Popeyes. No, if they order Popeyes, they're probably ordering their kids Popeyes. And then we start to associate certain things like diabetes with certain groups of people. Black people are more likely to have that. It's hereditary. Well, maybe that's just habitual rather than hereditary. But what happens is with this violence, it's going to be the same thing. And just like they've said, now this is science, I believe, that generational traumas can be passed on, that we hold the traumas of our ancestors. That violent trauma, damn, hold up. Damn. I just had a thought come through my mind, and I don't like it. If generational traumas can be passed down, then my question for all of us would be, if that's a violent trauma, is that passed down through generations? And if that is passed down through generations, I gotta sit with that one first. I gotta sit with that one for a minute. Let's keep watching the video. I gotta sit with that one for a minute. But I think y'all, damn. Whether it is or it isn't, the great thing about all of this is, just like bad can be passed down, whether it's a bad habit or a bad generational trauma, that can be reversed like this. It's simple, but it's not easy. That can be reversed like that. And if that's the solution for something negatively impacting people, then if we flip it, we can have something that impacts people positively. Because just like generational trauma in a negative way can be passed down, then positivity can be passed down from generation to generation. I don't know what's the opposite word as far as trauma. I don't know what it would be called, but damn. Let's keep going.
The two tweets he put out that upset me. And so I issued a response because he's clearly talking about me. Didn't call me out by name, but he's talking about me because I've been leading a conversation now for 4.5, 5 years about this demonic, toxic culture that too many black people have bought into. The culture of racial idolatry, the culture of entitlement, the culture of victimhood, no, I'm about to read it. Oh, yep. I'm sorry. The culture of victimhood, the culture of hip hop and hedonism, and if you get disrespected, you must respond in a very disrespectful fashion, and you must be willing to turn violent and really angry if you feel any sort of level of disrespect. This has been my topic forever. And Nick Fuentes decides, hey, I'm going to attack Jason Whitlock's argument. I'm not going to call him out by name, but I'm going to attack him in his argument because, and the only reason to do this is because clearly his group, his following or whatever, what I'm saying must resonate with them in some way. And so he must defeat that argument. And so I tweeted back, you're every bit as godless and stupid as your critics say. You're Ray Epps 2.0, pointing foolish believers into a building that will burn them down for eternity. Many of the people captured by the wickedness of black culture can claim ignorance. You know exactly what you're doing, demon. The enemy is paying people on social media to promote racial division and conflict. The aftermath of Austin Metcalf, Carmelo Anthony is a psyop. Don't fall for it. Stand on the word. Rebuke any so-called believer not pointing to Christ. That was my response. And so I want to, and this is going to take a second, and many of you are going to struggle to follow me as I go here, but trust me, I'm telling you the truth about how you should all feel. That's if you're a believer. If you're a secular person, this show's really not for you.
Sorry, I'm on mute. All right, so my apologies. I'll be totally honest with y'all. While I was on mute, I was having well, the first thing that I did, I had to set a reminder to schedule a lunch for work. But I'm having a conversation outside of this, and I'm trying to figure this whole thing out. And in the conversation, I'm asking, if generational trauma can be passed down and it's a violent generational trauma, do these generational traumas make people like, does generational stem from the word gene, and does it genetic? So I don't necessarily know that, but it just doesn't even matter. It does, but for the point that I'm going to make, I'll address it later. But I'm sitting here and I'm having a hard time understanding whether or not that a violent trauma can be passed down from generation to generation, which makes somebody more violent as they're growing up or as they're born. I mean, if I hold the generational trauma that my ancestors went through, then that's damn, that's a tough one. Yeah. All right, let's move on to this next part. I want to hear Nick Fuentes. I want to give y'all a chance to hear actually what Nick Fuentes said. Let's give him the opportunity to talk. And I want y'all to be able to hear exactly what he's saying. I think there was hold on. Was it 43, 42? No, 54, 54, 14. All right, hold on. Let me fast forward a little bit. Wait, what was this one? I got a bunch of timestamps, so we'll
calling
check this
God a
out.
liar. Said the word in the Bible. But that's not what he put in the Bible.
No, that's not it. Hold on. I don't know why I put 54:14. All right, hold on. I'll just do this. Oh, okay. All right. Let's take a look at this.
Time when I was young and dumb. Body all made in God's image. That he knew us in the womb. It says nothing in the Bible. Hey, there's a group of hey man, I really don't care nothing about this Bible. He is. And you know how I know it?
Listen to this.
I'm gonna tell you who he is. White Louis Farrakhan. That's who he is. And you know how I know it? Because I used to go to Louis Farrakhan speeches all the time when I was young and dumb. I used to be the expert on everything that came out of Louis Farrakhan's mouth. And Louis Farrakhan, like Nick Fuentes, and like ministers, black ministers all over America, knows if I really want to attract a following, the way to attract a following in the world is to lean into racial idolatry. And so you mix some truths with racial idolatry, you get a big audience. You get a big following. You can build you the Fruit of Islam and a security force. You can build you a Groypers movement. And they will go out and spam and harass whoever you point them at. And so I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly who I'm upsetting, and I know exactly what they're going to do because they're a part of a cult that thinks they're following God and they're actually following an asset. And so my response, and this is where I'm just like, it's not me. This discernment, this instincts, it's not me. I know how stupid I am. I know how irrelevant I am. It's not me. I've received a blessing from God that I can't even, again, it's my whole writing ability. This isn't from me being a great scholar. This is a blessing from God. These instincts where I can read a book and go, hey, Stephen A. Smith wants to run for president. That's not me, that's God. And so when I tweeted out my response to Nick Fuentes, and I put Ray Epps in it, Nick Fuentes thinks that I knew he was at January 6th. He thinks that I knew that Tucker Carlson had already called him an asset. He thinks I knew none of it. Look, everybody knows where my expertise is, covering sports. I pay attention to politics. I apply the biblical wisdom that I've acquired to my takes and opinions on politics. You know, I kind of follow cultural things.
I want to stop right there real quick because I let the video play a little bit longer because he just made me think about a video that I saw when it comes to Louis Farrakhan. I do agree that racial idolatry, whether it's a minister, whether it's a pastor, whether it's some of the leaders of the Black Muslim movement in America, as somebody who grew up idolizing Malcolm X, we have the same birthday. Ever since I was a young kid, I always felt an attachment to Malcolm X. I believe Malcolm X called out this stuff when he was close to approaching his death. A lot of these leaders, they know that race is an easy baiter. They know that you can use race to bait people in, to get them to get overly emotional about certain things, and to get them to lean a particular way. And what Jason Whitlock said, as far as them sprinkling in some truth, there is a lot of truth that's sprinkled in what they're saying. However, it's not always used, in my opinion, in an accurate way to do positive things. And I want to play this video real quickly before we get back to Jason Whitlock. I want to play this video that, and shout out to Unk, Mersh's Unk. I saw this on his page yesterday. And so that's why I was literally, I'm like, yo, I just saw this on his Unk's page. And it made me think about a lot of the things that Malcolm X used to preach early on when he was still attached to the Nation of Islam. As far as the things that he would say about white people being the blue-eyed devil, all of these things that he was pushing. And then he went on his trip to Mecca, his pilgrimage to Mecca, and he saw that there were white Muslims that he was praying besides, and he befriended some white Muslims. And whether or not, a lot of people say like Malcolm always knew that there were white Muslims, but one of the things that is said is that a lot of people, Black Muslims in America, didn't know that there were white Muslims. And in the Muslim culture, those are your brothers. Those are your brothers and sisters through Islam. And they take that very seriously, a lot of them. So when you have in America, what's being preached is more of this racial division based on what has happened in the history of America. It's a very lazy way, in my opinion, to get people to follow you when you're doing it using the emotional manipulation that comes with race. And I want to play this Malcolm X video. There's a certain part of it. It's not that long.
No, I don't worry.
But there's a certain part of it that I think describes exactly what Jason Whitlock is saying. So let me play this for you guys.
I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago.
Let me, hold on. Can I run it
live
back?
like a man who is dead already. I have no...
Hold on. Sorry about that.
No, I don't worry. I tell you, I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago. And I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Apparent message of love that you brought back from Islam is the real reason they're after you, because you're not hating as hard as they want you to.
Well, I never did hate anybody hard. But I do know that when I wrote that letter saying that there were white people in Mecca, it shook up a lot of Muslims, because most of the Muslims who follow Mr. Muhammad absolutely believed that it was impossible, physically impossible, I should say divinely impossible, for a white person to go to Mecca. And my trip there shattered that image, or that misconcept.
In view of the fact that these men who were your brothers are making threats against your life?
No, because actually it's not their fault. Most of them, now Joseph and the officials, they have a knowledge of what it's all about. But the rank and file Muslim brother does not know what it's all about.
The rank and file Muslim brother. So here he had people threatening his life, and he says that I don't blame them. The people at the top of the nation, or whatever organization you could say he's talking about, they're aware of it. But the rank and file people, they're not aware of it. They're not aware. He said that people would almost find it divinely impossible for a white person to go to Mecca. That's how racial issues are created, to benefit people at the top and to gain influence. How are you a part of an organization, a part of a religion, a part of a group, and so that group can benefit from leading and gaining influence in one country, they're going to not explain to you entirely about where that religion actually came from and what type of people are a part of that religion. There's a famous part in Malcolm X, the movie, where Denzel, he's walking up to a building and a white lady comes up to him and says, you know, what can I do to help the movement? Like, I want to help. I want to help. And he responds, nothing, and keeps walking. Because that's how he was programmed. And Malcolm X, he's a gifted orator. So now his programming because it's based on somebody else's teachings. Now he's teaching this to other people. So that's why he's now saying, like, I can't be mad at them because I used to teach them this. And now I'm going back on it. So let's keep going. Let's keep going.
They are, out of religious sincerity, they think that they are doing the will of Allah by protecting a man who I myself taught them was divine. So I don't in any way fault them. But those who are over them and give the orders, and actually the ultimate order comes from Elijah Muhammad himself. As long as I represented the black Muslim movement as an example of morality, unity, and militancy, as long as I could do that, I represented it. It was when I realized that it could not be represented as that I came on and started working among the non-Muslim Negroes, as I announced in January. And I had no intention, or rather March. And
All right, that's all that we need to see on that. But it just reminds me of it. It just reminds me of how 12 years ago, because I'm so pissed off and Black Lives Matter, I'm pushing that hard. And I looked at Dr. Umar, the things that he was saying, pretty similar to the things that he was saying now. Matter of fact, he may have been more extreme with the things that he was saying back then, and I agreed with them. I agreed with them. Now I disagree. And I let that, we play Dr. Umar's videos all the time, and I point out certain things that I disagree with, and I just don't think it's practical to get us in the place that I deem as successful, where I want to get us to. But when you're upset, you're fearful, you're pissed off, you feel like you need to get your get back, you feel like you've been taken advantage of, people will use that to enhance their own power and influence. And that is the same thing that I believe that Nick Fuentes is doing, the same thing that he's doing. So we saw it happen on the George Floyd side with Black Lives Matter and them using George Floyd to pretty much just line their own pockets and act as if they were pushing something positive for black people. And in all actuality, I don't think that they were. But they were just trying to get us riled up. The more pissed off and angry we were, the more we rioted, the more money that people donated to them. And now you got a guy like Nick Fuentes who's pushing the messaging that he's pushing that I think is going to be detrimental to all of us. And it's just going to further continue to put us in a place where we're seeing our opposition and enemy based on the color of somebody's skin. So let me go to where I said Nick Fuentes begins to speak, and I want to address some of the things that he's saying in this video of him responding to Jason Whitlock and what Jason Whitlock's describing. So there's obviously, we're fast forwarding a bunch, and in the fast forward part, Jason Whitlock pretty much just says that Nick Fuentes was one of the people that was at January 6th, really pushing them to perhaps create an insurrection, but he never got in trouble. Right? So Nick Fuentes, everybody calls it an insurrection. Nick Fuentes was one of the people that was promoting this. And he was probably promoting it in a more extreme way than a whole lot of other people that got arrested. But nobody came for him. So Jason Whitlock believes that he's pretty much a pawn or somebody that's just been put in play to play a particular role. Now, I don't have any information to go off of, on that, but let's just hear what he says.
Culture and Jews,
commentator,
and all of that. Let's play the clip.
And this black conservative commentator from the Blaze.
As soon as he said black, people got turned off the way he said it.
And this black conservative commentator from the Blaze, a former sports commentator named Jason Whitlock, replied to my monologue. And he called me a heretic, which I didn't appreciate, but he didn't elaborate on that, so I didn't take it too personally. And he said that he understands where I'm coming from. He said that other black people have said the same thing that I've said, so it's not necessarily a racial thing. He says he kind of can understand it. And then today he had a completely different take. I posted today, and I'll tell you my position on this, and then I'll return to my beef now with Jason. So I replied to Jason on my show very graciously, and I said, look, I respect this guy immensely, but I disagree. And I elaborated about that I elaborated on that point today on Twitter. I said, I'm getting really sick and tired of white people and black people blaming everything other than black people. People like Jason Whitlock say the problem with young YNs, young black men, these black adolescents.
Bro is just tripping what he just said. But this is just one of those things where you call yourself a certain thing and people gonna use that same language against you. We call ourselves the N words, use it. You can get upset when other people use it, but they still gonna use it. Now, people are probably wondering, like, what did he say? What did he say? He said YNs. Now, I don't think Jason Whitlock, I don't think he used the term YN. I don't know. I didn't watch Jason Whitlock's full response, but it would just be surprising for me to hear Jason Whitlock use the term YN. I guess it could be used in a certain context, but YN means young, Nigga. That's what that stands for. So hearing Nick Fuentes say that, it's like, I gotta admit, like, that just, I don't know. It bothered me a little bit. It bothered me. And the reason why I say a little bit compared to a lot is because what I said earlier. You can get mad as you want, but if you keep saying it, then, you know, I don't know.
With young YNs, young black men.
Nah, bro. Bro. He's trying to act like he was getting ready to say it. I don't like that.
The problem with young YNs, young black men, these black adolescents, they say the problem with them is the culture. It's the rap music made them this way. How many times are we going to hear this one? The glorification of gangster culture made them this way. Rap music made them this way. Tupac made them this way. The media made them this way. Jews made them that. People blame the Jews now. They blame.
And this is when he's talking about the Jews, I'm going to tell you what he's talking about. He's talking about the Leor Cohens. It's always been said that Jewish people own a lot of these record labels. They bring on a lot of these black artists. And Leor Cohen, who was on the Breakfast Club, he acknowledged it. Now, he didn't say all Jewish people do this, but people will say that because Jewish people control a lot of the entertainment industry, that they'll allow their black artists that they bring on their record label to say any and everything when it comes to disrespecting, violating, egregious things when it comes to the black community. But you can't say a fraction of that about the Jewish community without being censored. That's what he's talking about.
And the rich, they say the rich are dividing the white and the black people. Always excuses. And I said on Friday, and I said today, I'm really getting sick and tired of hearing that because we all know it's not true. Just one problem with that idea, it just isn't true. It is a racial issue. For all the people saying, and it brings me no joy to say this, I'm not happy about that, but it's the reality. I deal in reality. I'm a truth teller. So I know that makes black people uncomfortable. It makes white people uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable reality. And for some, it's very upsetting and it's offensive. And that's a shame because it's the truth. But for all those people that say we want to take race out of the conversation, we just simply can't because the common denominator is race. We are not being accosted in downtown Chicago by people who are bad Christians. We're not being accosted downtown by people who listen to rap music. We're not accosted downtown by people that worship gangster culture. We're being accosted by black people. We're being accosted by black men, young adolescent black men with black skin, with big noses, African Americans. They're not even necessarily African. They're not the Nigerian immigrants that drive for Uber. They're the African American descendants of slaves in the
Black people, how you feel about that? Should I turn liberal and say, this is the problem? This is the... What do you expect? What do you expect somebody like him to say about black people? And a lot of these things black people say about black people just don't say it on a public platform. A lot of these are uncomfortable truths that he's talking about. Some, I think he's just being wildly disrespectful in the things that he's saying, the noses, the certain stuff. He knows what he's doing. But see, I'm going to move that to the side because the problem at hand is still the problem at hand. When you do go to Chicago, what happens? Why is Chicago damn near like a Middle East? It's like war in the Middle East amongst black kids in Chicago, starting at the age of 13, 14. Matter of fact, I don't even care about why. The only reason why I care about why is to fix the problem. I don't care about why something is the way it is to blame. I care about why in order to identify the problem, in order to fix it, not to blame other people and tell them that they need to change, so they need to fix it. I'm not going to sit here and blame Jewish record producers or Jewish owners of record companies and say, see, it's y'all fault. You need to change. You need to change. They're not going to change, and I can't force them to change. So therefore, the only thing that we can change is taking accountability for the things that are in our control, controlling the controllables. Has black music impacted our culture negatively? Has our entire culture impacted the younger generation to the point where this has just become a vicious cycle? And we could sit here and say it's Joe Biden and the crime bill. Yeah, I've said that plenty of times. Joe Biden and the crime bill. It was unfair for them to lock people up for crack for longer sentences than they did for coke, because crack is more associated with black people and poverty compared to cocaine being a richer drug and wealth and being more associated with white people. I could sit here and say that and it'll be 100% true. However, it's not going to solve the problem. The problem is we shouldn't be selling drugs in the first place. That's the problem. The rules are the rules. We can spend 200 years trying to adjust the rules and trying to convince people, the same people that we're saying are oppressing us, the same people that are saying racist. We can spend as much time as we want trying to change their minds, especially when it's something that benefits them and keeps them at the top. Do you really think they're going to change, even if you do change their minds? Or are you going to change how you move accordingly to the rules of society? Are we going to change? We may not like what he's saying. He's being a prick about it. He's being, when I say prick, I'm only going off of what's on the screen. There's other words that I would use, but he's just being a dick. Like he's being a clown. He's being a race baiter. He's being whatever you want to call it. But if you take away everything that he's saying in this video, are the problems that he's discussing still going to exist? I would say the answer is yes. So we could sit here and complain, and this goes across the board. This is not just this issue. We could go across the board when it comes to social programs, all these things of us relying on other people to fix our problems, to the point where we don't even realize, like, oh, Nick Fuentes is racist. Okay, Nick Fuentes is racist. Okay, so we identify Nick Fuentes as being racist, being a white supremacist. Do our problems go away, or do the problems still exist? Oh, we were treated unfairly because of slavery and because of this, so therefore we're owed reparations, and we're going to keep fighting for reparations, even though when Biden's in office, we're not fighting for reparations. But since Trump won, now Ayanna Pressley and the Democrats and Jasmine Crockett, now we're going to push for reparations. What happened, happened. I may not like it. I may say that, yo, we are owed reparations based on other people getting reparations. All that may be true. However, I'm not relying on it. I'm not relying on it. It's irresponsible to rely on it. It's selfish. It's lazy. No, figure out how to get yourself to a position where you do not need reparations. Figure out how to get to a position where what Nick Fuentes is saying doesn't even matter, because we're not even on that type of timing anymore. That's what we have to figure out. Oh, Nick Fuentes. I don't care what this guy that I've never met never says. I mean, he has a huge influence, so I care to that point. I care to the point where I'm looking at America And I'm saying, like, yo, people like Nick Fuentes, they're looking to create a race war. They're looking to benefit in a lazy way of trying to get influence, trying to win people over. So therefore, they're using race baiting in order to do so, and it's very lazy. I care from that standpoint, but just what Nick Fuentes feels about me, I don't really care. I don't care about him. I'm more so, and this is 48 Laws of Power. This book right here. 48 Laws of Power. They talk about, matter of fact, I don't even know if this 48 Laws of Power or it's Patrick Bet-David's book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. I forget which book it is. I'm being totally honest, but I think they mention it in both books where your enemies and the people that talk like Nick Fuentes can be very valuable because they're going to say the stuff that other people may believe and know that is true, but are scared to say it. They're going to say the things that your friends may not say to you. They're going to make you feel uncomfortable because a lot of us deciding to change something is when we get to a point where we're so uncomfortable with it, then we have to change, right? Hit that rock bottom. We experience a certain level of discomfort that then promotes us to change. We don't just change just to change, right? So use what he's saying. We need people like Nick Fuentes to say certain things that trigger us, that get us angry, that get us upset, but use that anger and fuel in a positive way to actually bring about change, not to sit here and get emotionally upset and call him a racist and call him a white. Who cares? I'm not empowering him. Oh, damn, Nick Fuentes just reminded us. We were over here thinking that this is all of our Democratic friends and liberal friends, they just pat us on the back and say how nice we are and how Nick Fuentes is pointing out those uncomfortable truths in a hole way, but he's pointing out a lot of those uncomfortable truths that we need to address. Or we don't. I don't know.
The United States. They're black men. That is who is accosting us. And if it were cultural, that wouldn't be the case. I said this today on Twitter. For all of these conservatives
Now, he is wrong about that. It is cultural. Culture controls everything.
that say it's the black culture, why don't white people, why don't you see white male teenagers stabbing and shooting and carjacking and
Dummy, because it's black culture. He just answered his own question. It's not white culture.
taking over the city? Why don't you see that? Do white people not listen to rap music? Do white people not go to rap concerts? Do white people?
The same way Beyonce can create a country album, but it may not relate to as many black people as country albums from white artists relate to white people.
People not speak like black people in Ebonics, in African-American vernacular English? Do white people not worship black celebrities? Do white people not pretend to be gangsters? Of course they do. So do Hispanics. So do Asians. When you look at some of the biggest nerds in rap culture, it's Asians. It's Asian music producers. When's the last time you've seen an Asian gang take over downtown Chicago, mug people on the subway?
And this is what happens. And see, this is why you got to just let people talk. He knows he's not making any sense. He knows that the premise of his argument just doesn't make any sense. But because he got emotional and because he tried to use race baiting in order to gain some attention, and Jason Whitlock responded with logic, he's not making any sense. So let him talk. Let him talk. This is another example of when you get emotional. He's getting emotional. He's trying to prove a point instead of him just coming out and acknowledging. In my opinion, like he's trying to, he feels uncomfortable saying the things that he said, which I believe that some of the things are true, but he feels uncomfortable saying it. So now he's trying to go on this rant of justifying why he said stuff, and he's using things that just don't make any sense. You should have just said what you said and stood on it. In my opinion. Why doesn't black culture impact white people more than it does black culture. Well, isn't that kind of, you answered your the answer to your question is within your question.
Carjack people, you just don't see it. You see black people, not people that listen to rap music. It just so happens that black people do. And why do you think this is? For all the people that blame it on the culture, hey, guess who made black culture? Black people. Black people are being made.
That's a fact. I don't care. See, it used to be blackface, right? It used to be blackface. It used to be blackface until they realized, oh, we can just give black people money and they'll do the ignorant stuff. They'll actually do it and take it seriously. It used to be blackface. It used to be white people painting their faces black to behave like the caricatures of Negroes, until white people realize we can just pay these Negroes. We'll just give them more money and they'll do it for us. And then we can kind of just play the background, collect our money, how we collect it. And then you can't even blame us for it. How black people behave in current culture is it used to be white people dressing up in blackface to perform like clowns and caricatures of the, what's the right word for it? What's the word when you're talking about certain things, the prejudices, right? It used to be white people dressing up in blackface, all black people like watermelon. That's, you know, the stigmas or what, I forget the word that I'm looking for. I forget, somebody could write it. I'm sure my dad's probably going to text me and say the word you look, he always texts me the word I'm looking for. But the white people used to dress up in blackface. It was not supposed to be taken seriously. It wasn't supposed to be a serious thing. But then it was all caricatures. But then they realized that black people are silly enough. You could pay a silly Negro enough to promote it to their own culture, and shame on the rest of us. We embraced it as entertainment. So they no longer needed blackface because they're like, damn, black people will just do this ignorant stuff. Stereotypes. What did I say? What did I say? My dad's going to text me. They preyed on the stereotypes, right? Black people like fried chicken. Let's show black people with some big lips, eating watermelon, fried chicken, the big eyes. They used to have white people dress up in blackface to perform stereotypes of black people, and now black people do it on our own. We celebrate them. We give them awards. They're regarded as some of the biggest influences in our community. Matter of fact, we're going to have Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B speak for Kamala Harris in order to convince the rest of the Negroes to get on board with Kamala Harris. Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B, two artists that promote some of the most negative parts of the negative stereotypes of black culture. That's who Kamala Harris decided to bring on her campaign in order to convince the rest of black people that she's doing something good for black people. Do you see how crazy this is? So I'm not more mad at Nick Fuentes than I'm more upset with Kamala or Cardi or Meg Thee Stallion. Why would I be more upset with Nick Fuentes? Like Nick Fuentes said it, y'all Negroes are doing it. Don't blame the Jewish people. Don't blame the white people. Don't blame slavery. You didn't experience it, so stop using it as an excuse. Control the controllables. Things that are outside of your control, yeah, you could place blame on other things. But the things that are directly within your control, how do you blame other things that were not in your control?
Made to do these things by black culture. Well, guess who made black culture? Black people. And there is a minority of people who say, well, the Jews made black culture. Candace Owens says the Jews made black culture this way. There's some truth to this. Jewish people produced, and by that I mean funded, rap music and black culture, but black people made it. But black people made it.
We're going to leave it there. We're going to leave it there. So I promise y'all I had one video that I wanted to finish off with. Heavy, 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 heavy. So this, I believe, Andrew Bustamante, gentleman by the name of Andrew Bustamante. And I know I'm kind of finishing off that last segment, maybe rather abruptly, but it's just more of the same. These aren't conversations that we've had all the time. It's just sometimes because we don't like the messenger and the way that we're saying, the way that the messenger's saying stuff. Well, he's white. He doesn't have the right to speak on black people like that. Say whatever you want. Right? Free speech? No, not free speech. There is no free speech, right? We had this conversation the other day with the family. There is no free speech. It's based on who's in power and what they decide you can speak on. That's what you can speak on. And what they decide you can't speak on, you can't speak on. That's how it operates around the world. That's how it's probably always been in society. If you're a gazelle and you're trying to tell the lion, you're wrong, you can't say that to me. Well, I'm stronger than you. Ew, it's Dak. Just want to thank you for checking out our video and visiting the OG Network. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure that you give us a like. And if you're looking to join a community of inspired individuals striving for purposeful abundance, subscribe. And if you're feeling real generous, share the video with some friends and family. All right, I'll see y'all soon. Ew.